Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Women's Holistic Health Conference, day two. This is our last session of the day, speaking session of the day with Sarai. Sarai is an amazing individual who I have been so blessed to know and have in my life. She is like a healing business coach for women, and let me tell you, she'll dig into those deep, hard stuff that you don't want to, but you need to if you're going to do things, right? And she's not afraid of that, and it's awesome, and she's really good at that. She's very witchy and woo and spiritual and all the things that make a really good, coach and person to be there for you in all the ways that you need. She is going to speak today on our main topic, returning to the divine feminine. This is kind of like her wheelhouse of something she is really good at. She has her own story that goes along with this, and I'm not sure what she's going to touch on, so she may mention that. But just know that you're in for a treat, and I am super excited. I'm just going to go ahead and give her the stage so she can get all the juicy goodness in that she needs to, and we will just get started. So go on, Sarai, and go on, jump in. I'm going to mute myself so no one else can see me, and we'll be good to go.
Amazing. Thank you, Ira. Thank you so much. And just even thank you for the opportunity to be here and to be able to just really connect and grow in this space and with everyone that is attending and also all the speakers as well. So it's a really amazing experience. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here just so that because I have a slide presentation that will help us because sometimes you know how it is, right? Like we need to be able to put kind of like the visuals to what we're talking about. So yes, my name is Sarai. Exactly. I'm an intuitive business coach. And this is something that is a really juicy topic. And it's really important that we dive into it because this is an underlying theme that I see with myself, with every single woman that I've ever worked with. We have always had to address the divine feminine and really address like returning back to self, which is like part of this answering the call of she. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to dive into this and we're really going to kind of like I'm going to say like kind of pull it apart, right? Dive into not only the divine feminine, but also the divine masculine. Okay. Because that is, I truly believe that in order to be fully whole and complete and well-rounded and have our balance in life, we really need to understand all the components that we're working with, right? Like we need to have a full awareness of what is divine feminine, what is divine masculine, what are these energies, right? Like what is this all about so that we can notice like, okay, this is when I'm in this like unhealthy energy and now this is how to shift into a healthy energy, right? So like that's really what we're going to be talking about and like how that shows up in our daily lives, becoming aware of when we're in those different energies and then giving you some tools to shift into more of a healthy state so that ultimately you'll be able to rebalance and walk away being able to embody your divine feminine on a daily basis. Okay. And then in the breakout session, you'll be able to actually present your own situations and receive personalized coaching and feedback on that. If you want to hop on over there, that would be great. We'd love to see you there. Real quick before we get started in this, I just want to give a little disclaimer here. This space is inviting and welcoming to all, okay? But what it is I speak with an expertise and a truth that is based on my own experience and the work that I do with my clients, right? So what that really means is that my wisdom is working with women who are born into a female body and who identify as a woman. Okay, so like my words aren't necessarily, they're not reflective of like being inclusive or exclusive or anything like that, but just simply my truth, like what I know to be 100% true in working with a woman who's born into a female body, right? And identifies that way. So listen, if that's not you, you are so welcome here. Okay. But some of what I say may not totally land or resonate with you. And actually, even if it is you, some of what I might say also might not totally land. And that's okay, right? Like this is just a space where you can take what works for you and what feels right and leave the rest. All right. So now, excuse me, I have a little bit of like some of that going on, but which is it's actually good because then it's like kind of clearing out the energy so that what needs to be heard and expressed can be fully do that, right? Okay, so who's ready? Let's go. Let's dive into this topic. This is so much fun and I have a lot to cover. All right. So it might be a little overwhelming at first, but that's good. That's why, you have the slides that you'll be able to work with. And then you have the recording too, if you want to, check that out later. Okay. So what is divine feminine? What do you think it is? And like, what does that mean to you? If you would like to put that in chat, I'd love to know. And it's good. And there's not a right or a wrong. Okay. This is just about like your current awareness and how you currently see things. So yeah, so let's see and Ira, like you also feel free if you have anything, like if you want to put in yours, that's cool too, right? So what do you really see as like divine feminine? What does that mean to you? So let's go ahead and dive into that. If you have your own thoughts, that's awesome. I'd love to know. But for this case, what I would like to offer today is a different take on this, a different approach to divine feminine and divine masculine energies. Okay. So, especially if you don't know anything about it, cool. If you know something about it and you feel like you're like very familiar with it, I would like to just invite you to open your mind, open your heart here, because I'm coming at it with a little bit different of approach. All right. So, a lot of times we think like we associate even just feminine being like flowy and soft and sweet and like, flowers and girly and flirty, right? And yes, can it be all of those things? Sure. But your divine feminine is actually just meaning like your natural state. Okay, this is about being safe, feeling safe in your body, feeling safe being feminine, feeling safe being in the feminine body, right? It's like a mix of all of that. Okay. And so, again, when we're talking about being born into a female body and identifying as female, we have a different natural state from others, like especially from men, or even those that like don't identify that way. Like we have a different natural state that we live in, or that is like, again, natural for us. Okay. So not only then are we born in a different natural state, but as we grow up, then we start like accumulating the layers of what the world tells us is natural feminine, right? Of like what that's supposed to look like. So we get this image, we get this like really defined box of this is what it's like to be feminine. And then, and we get the same thing with this is what it's like to be masculine. And then what happens is then we try to like fit into that box, and it doesn't really work that way, right? And then that's when things start to get like really wonky. Um, and so here's what I would like you to just be open to considering, though, is that divine feminine is really talking about your emotions. It's talking about your natural emotional state. Okay. So do you know what your natural emotional state is? Do you have any idea what your natural emotional state is? And I would love, and Melanie, we're going to get to divine masculine in just a minute, and I love that. And divine feminine is the feelings. Yes, love that, absolutely. So, what is your natural emotional state? Do you know? Do you have a clear idea of what that is? Okay. Again, there's no right or wrong. This is just kind of like, well, what do you think it might be? Okay, because it's actually when I started diving into this work, I was like, I don't know how I'm supposed to feel, or like all of that, right? And it doesn't mean that you should feel a certain way. But we all have a home base that is natural. And so for all of us, for actually like 90% of us, it is calm. Okay. Now, this doesn't mean that it's actually happening right now. It just means that when you have a completely healed divine feminine, your natural state is calm. Okay. So the other thing I want you to consider is that when it comes to divine feminine, this energy works with what is already wanting change. Okay. And I'm going to say it this way to help us be able to visualize what that really means. This event, right? There are women that are out in the world that are going, I am looking for health. I'm looking to improve my health. I'm looking to take back my health. I'm looking to regain a sense of my own control over my health, right? There's this need out in the world that's already wanting change. And we are showing up to this event going, this is the solution to it. We are in the divine feminine, offering up this beautiful feminine energy, going like, we are the solution to a change, to a need that is already be out there. It's already there, right? So this is a perfect example of how the feminine is balancing that need that's out there. Okay, so now going into divine masculine, and let's go and see what Melanie said on divine masculine, right? The action is the action of our experience. Yeah, Melanie, I love it. Natural emotional state. Yes, I was like, yeah, relaxation. Totally, right, which is actually calm. Like that's just another, it's another way. But like if you label the emotion of relaxed, that's calm. That's great. Absolutely. I love that. And yes, and with anxiety, and we're totally going to talk about that. We're going to dive into that, and yeah, you ladies are absolutely on point, and that's the whole thing, right? And then like when we talk about with the divine masculine, and oh, I want to also say this might trigger some of y'all, and that's okay, especially ladies that are like know about this topic. What I'm going to say right now, you're probably going to be like, "You're wrong, Sarai." And that's okay. Again, I'm offering up a different perspective, and I want just hear me out and let me explain everything, and then we can all disagree with it. Okay. So divine masculine, creativity. I'm going to explain it. All right. Growth, expansiveness, power. All right. Birthing life. That's like birthing your life vision on earth, changing the world. And if you start to really like feel into that, you'll see how that actually kind of matches what Melanie was saying about the action, right? So like and another way to also think of it is that it's thinking about your life plan and then putting that into play. And it is what creates the change. Divine masculine creates the change. So remember, divine feminine works with the change it's like already desiring change, and then we work with it. But the divine masculine creates the change. So what do we really see here? We don't see anything about emotions, right? It's all about what? And Melanie said it, right? It's all about action. So the divine feminine is about emotions. And when we heal that, we heal ourselves into a state of calm. And I'm going to talk about that more. And then the divine masculine is when we heal that, we then can take the necessary action to create all of the things that we get inspired with. Okay, so let's actually talk about that creativity for a second. So the way that I think about it is that the divine feminine is the visionary, right? She has that like big picture that she's seeing. And yes, there is definitely an element of being creative in that. But when you really think about it, when you think about the times that you are expressing your creativity, what are you doing? You are physically taking action. You are actually, if you're crafting, you're not crafting in your mind, right? You're not just like visualizing crafting. You're actually doing it. You're physically doing the thing, right? So it's that. So like that is the actual thing with creativity. It comes down to it is a masculine action, and that's okay, right? Like this is part of rebalancing ourselves. So okay, even like when you think about genders and men and women, and it actually even makes sense that way too, because men have a different pattern and a different rhythm to their energy, right? One that can support and physically sustain the creativity that's needed to create the change in the world. And we're going to talk about that as well as we dive into this, right? So when we talk about healing your divine feminine, returning to the divine feminine, we're saying returning to a state of calm, right? Healing nervous system, mindset, emotions to a place where your everyday state is calm. Okay, so it doesn't mean that you won't experience other emotions, right? You do, but it's just like Ira said. It's like what ends up happening is that when you go to do those other things, your body puts a hard stop. And when I say other things, I mean the things that would normally create anxiety, your body puts a hard stop and it's like, nope, we're not going to do that today, right? Like that's not going to happen. And so and then what happens though is like when we don't have that healed and we're still in like and we're going to dive into like talking about the wounded part, but when it's not healed, what ends up happening is that we just push right through it, right? We're like, I'm going to make this thing happen anyway. I see this a lot with women in business. They're like, I'm going to post this anyway. I'm going to go market even though my body is telling me like this is causing anxiety, right? So they just push through it and do it anyway. And then that creates two things. One, it creates lots of action with very little results. And the other thing it creates is burnout, right? It's like, this is why it matters that we do this work, because our decisions are meant to be body led. All of our decisions are meant to be body led. But when we're feeling that anxiety, it's like we're leading with our ego instead, right? So if you're not in calm and you're in that anxiety, you're leading from the ego. And let's also be clear, like anxiety is like feeling emotions and having emotional based decision making. That's like a whole other topic, right? Because that's actually like the reason that we're making decisions is not to solve the problem. It's actually to solve the emotion. It's we run from the strong emotions that we feel. So we can even dive into that in the breakout session. But for now, we're going to move on. We're going to go on to this, our next slide here. So breaking it down. All right. We're going to understand the fundamentals. Let's demystify it. Okay. So with the feminine and with the masculine, I've mentioned it a little bit, right? We have a wounded side and then we have a healthy side. Okay. And remember, this is all about just really bringing awareness so that you have more control over your life. So you have better decision making. So you have just better, a healthier balance in what's going on in your life. Okay. So let's talk about just like almost like these kind of archetypes, right? So we have a wounded feminine, and I call that the damsel in distress. I even imagine like a princess. She's in the tower and she's going, "Save me, prince, save me." Or knight. The knight comes and is like, saving her from the dragon. So it's this idea that she needs saving, that she needs help. She can't figure it out on her own. She can't solve her own problems, right? So that's the damsel in distress under the wounded. And then under the healthy, we have that confident woman, right? The confident woman is the relaxed woman, right? The one who is balanced and sure of herself. Okay, so in a minute, we'll talk a little bit more about that. And then under the masculine, we have wounded masculine and healthy masculine. Okay. These are just pointing out how it shows up differently in our lives. So under wounded masculine, we have seducer and we have the overachiever. So I want to talk about seducer real quick. Just like a little snippet here. This is what the spiritual community has started to label as the dark feminine energy, and almost like promoting people to use dark feminine to create their results. And that, obviously, as you can see, can lead to some really unhealthy patterns, because ultimately that is a wounded masculine energy. So we'll talk about it a little bit deeper, and I'm actually going to very much point out how that plays out. But it's just something that I really want to bring out and like call to the forefront, because it's the discussion that needs to be talked about. And then also we have the overachiever under the wounded masculine, right? Overachiever is like when a woman feels like she needs to run at the same speed as a man, right? Keep the energy high, keep it always in power, always to the forefront. Oh, and that was something that like I always also wanted to kind of mention real quick. When it comes to a man's natural state, again, like binary here, right? Like a man born into a male body that identifies as a man. They're actually, most of them are supposed to be in power as their natural emotional state. I should steal that and see if you got it. But yeah, they're more in that power state. We're in the calm state, right? And it goes so much deeper than that. There's like lots of layers here. It's so juicy, but we're not going to go into that right now. But then going back here, and then we see under the healthy masculine. All right. And this is where it might trigger some of y'all again, right? The birther and the change maker. Okay. Change maker. Okay. That might seem like kind of obvious. The birther. Now I want you to really think about, you're like, Sarai, men don't give birth. I know. But when we really think about the act, because it's not talking about men, right? This is just talking about like the energy of healthy masculine. When we are giving birth, there's nothing that is flowy and relaxed and laid back about that shit, right? Like it is like how come hell or high water, this child is getting out, right? Like it is committed. You are committed to that act happening. That is masculine action at its finest. And it's like literally that act of giving birth, right? So that's how we really think, how I think about healthy masculine. Okay. So your healthy masculine, it is the part that takes action, but this is really important, especially now that we're even talking about childbirth, right? It's, you can't sustain it for long periods of time. This is why it's so important for a woman to be in healthy energies, period. You need rest. Because even, remember, men are different. Men can sustain that. They can keep going. That's the way they're built, right? They're built in power. They're built to be able to change and continue that action. Women are not. That's why we need the rest. We have downtime after childbirth, right? We can do it, but we need to recover and we need that time, right? So same thing with healthy feminine. This is also something that a lot of people, and I'm going to read comments in just a second, that a lot of people don't quite understand also with healthy feminine. Even when we get into a place of calm, we can't stay there for too long, because this is why. It needs to be alternated with healthy masculine action, because otherwise your calm will turn into anxiety. If you're in calm and you get the vision, right? Because we're the visionary, we're in that beautiful space, and we get that vision, and then we get that ping to do something about it. But then if you don't, the calm turns into anxiety. So this is a very interesting way to, this is why it's so important that it's more than just I'm getting myself into calm, so I'm golden, right? We also need to make sure that masculine is healed as well, so that we can take the necessary action when needed, right? Yes, and exactly. Yeah, I was yeah, anxiety is definitely a sign that you're not aligned. Oh my God, yes, and trying to trying to keep up with our partners, and then right, and I'm sure I'm sure you understand, right? When we try to keep up with our partners. So she was saying she's trying to keep up with her partner's natural state and times, and it makes her sick, right? Right, we're not designed to live the same way, but yet this is why, and this is also part of what I want to talk about is. This is why it's also so important that we do the internal work, because we have these layers to our thought. We have our beliefs, we have our images in our mind's eye that tell us oh, this is what it means to be a woman in the world. This is what it means to be a working woman, or a business woman, a career woman, right? We have all these ideas of what worthiness looks like, right? And so when we don't match those identities, or those images, and those, I call it's the box, right? Then that also creates anxiety. So we're looking at partner, whoever your partner is, right? We're looking at the partner going, well, they're moving at this speed and they're creating this. And so for me to feel valuable, I have to go at that speed too, and then keeping up. And so this is part of how we need to reset, right? And we need to go back and reclaim back into our divine feminine. This is part of why it's so important, right? We are cyclical beings. And she's saying that are super affected by the moon, by the seasons, right? By our own hormonal cycles, right? By our own, all of the things we have different energy cycles, right? Even though those of us that are women, we all have a different energetic cycle, right? I'm a projector. My cycle is different than a manifestor, right? If you want to talk HD for a second, right? So it really is just true. It's truly important that we take a look at all of this. Okay, so now let's keep going. All right, so how it shows up in your life, in all of our lives, right? So we have the wounded feminine. Okay, let's just kind of dig into this. Procrastination, paralysis, confusion, delay, distraction. Let me know if any of this is ringing a bell. All right, this is going back to that damsel going okay, I'm helpless. Which sounds very exaggerated, but if you really think about it, y'all, I see this absolutely all the time in business. Women going, well, I just need this extra thing in order to fill in the blank, right? I need this extra little certification, or this extra little course on something. Oh, I'm still not quite ready to move forward. I need all of these I need the program to look like, right? And we have all of these things that we say we need, because we're I need the answers. I need someone to fix it for me, or I need someone to save it. Oh, so many times people are I just want somebody to come in and do my marketing for me. I get it. I get that it can like be overwhelming and stuff, but we have to really take ownership of all of this, because ultimately the wounded feminine is what needs. This means ego is making decisions, okay? And when you need something, when you're like, I really need this thing, I need this thing right here to complete me. When I have this thing, then I'll be able to. Like when I lose the weight and I have this like size, whatever, or certain pounds, then I'll be able to feel confident. Then I'll love my body. Okay. But when you're in that energy, when you're in that energy, it's actually not soul aligned to have that for you at that time. Like at this moment in time, it's just not soul aligned, because when you're in that energy, it's like you have to heal that first and then you can have the thing. Right? This is why the inner work is so important, because if not, it will lead us to being stuck in unsafe situations. Like even just with the body, it leads us to have these like unhealthy, unsafe ideas of body image, right? Even something like that. It's like I have experienced this where I have lost all the weight, literally when I lost over 80 pounds and got down to that like ideal thing, and it still wasn't good enough. I still couldn't look in the mirror and go, oh, she's go mama, go. No, I couldn't even do that. I wasn't a mom at the time, but still I couldn't even do that. And yet I look back at those pictures and I was like, and what? Why was I not happy? You know, it's just because even though I created it, and by the way, I absolutely used fear and anxiety to make it happen. It was not soul aligned for it to happen. I used my will. I whooped the fuck out of that. I was like, this is happening. I don't care what. And we're going to actually talk about that right now. Let's go into wounded masculine, because that's what I was in here. First up, coercion. All right. So now we're going to go back to the seducer. Okay. Because this is where we're like, I'm going to coerce this thing. Now, this wasn't relative to me. I wasn't in this energy. I wasn't in seducer energy. But this is like, I'm going to coerce this person or this situation to do what I want. And this really starts with just the most simple thing. And it starts at a really young age that seems really cute and innocent. Like even something with like a little girl who's like, daddy, daddy, I love you, right? You love me, right? You would do anything for me. Yeah. Okay. Well, there's this little doll that like, it's so cute and she needs to come home with me. Like that is, even though it's again, super innocent and sweet, it is the start of what? Manipulating somebody in a situation, right? Playing into that energy of like, and I've seen videos and I've seen like women talking. I'm not talking about like little girls, but like I've seen women speaking and they're like, you're going to use this dark energy to do this. And we have to call this out, that it's being you're coercing a situation to give you what you want, right? Okay. Second thing, this was an energy that I was in, forcing. I'm going to make this happen. This thing right here, it is happening no matter what, right? Like that's a wounded masculine. Clutching, hyper fixated on an exact thing, right? This is like, I have to have this exact thing right here, and if I don't get it, it's not good enough, right? It's like having blinders on and not being open to other things. This happens often with manifesting. I'm sure that we have all experienced that or heard other people that are just like, I'm closed off to anything. I've certainly done this too. Like I'm closed off to, it has to look a certain way. The money has to come in this way. And if it doesn't come this way, I'm going to ignore the rest. Right. And striving. Okay. This is like constant striving. It's never enough. It's never good enough. Always needing more. Who does that sound like? Me, when I had lost all the weight and it still wasn't good enough. Right. Because I was like, I'm going to go for the next thing. And because it was never good enough. Okay, so now, which do you experience more? Okay, and it's okay if it's like a mix. Like I said, like that, like the wounded masculine is where I was prior to having my spiritual awakening. Then once I had a spiritual awakening, and I I dropped out of like forcing things and clutching and striving and all of that. So I healed my masculine, right? Then I went into wounded feminine. I experienced all of that. I got stuck. I got stuck very hard in in the wounded feminine energy. So I'd love to know. Pop it in the chat. I would just love to know what your like. Where do you feel like you maybe get stuck? And and the thing is that it's totally normal. Remember, this isn't about like pointing fingers or calling out or anything like that. It's about awareness, right? Like we really need to become aware of when we're in these energies, so that we can do what's best for, again, our bodies, being led from the body, and being able to reclaim our health and our energy, our cycles and rhythms. Okay, so both of these wounded energies they're actually manipulative, as we talked about, right? Codependent and entitled. And I know that it sounds really harsh. And when I dived into this, I was like, oh, it feels really icky, right? To think of it like that. But it needs to be talked about. We need to really be honest about how we're showing up in the world. And I'm just going to tell y'all something. This is the state of the world right now. Okay. This is why everyone is complaining about money. They're complaining about why they don't have money, why money is taking so long. And I hear this often with women in business, why sales are taking so long. It's because of this. 90, and I'm pointing over here because that's where my screen is, right? 90+% of our people in the world are in wounded energies. They're in either not taking any action and just paralysis and like spinning and going all over the place without getting anything done, or they're trying to force it to happen. They're in the pushing, the clutching, the striving. All right. So now let's see how both of these wounded energies kind of play together. Okay. So, we're allowed to feel all the emotions. Okay. This is actually what makes us complete as women, is being able to feel the entire gamut of emotions, but then being able to come back into that center, right? Being able to come back into calm. But here's the thing. We need to be aware and take ownership of when we're feeling an emotion and then using it to manipulate. All right, I'm going to give you all an example of this. This gets me fired up, right? So I'm going to give you all an example. Who here likes to watch Love is Blind? The reality Love is Blind. I've never really been a reality person, but this is something that I have seen. So I would love to know, like, drop it in the chat. Let me know if you are somebody that watches Love is Blind. Okay. Because it is fascinating and it's very interesting. So I have actually included this now as a kind of like an assignment, a homework assignment, a module in my newest program, Healthy and Wealthy Mompreneur. So I literally have them go in and watch one of the seasons, but in a specific way, right? Like it's not just like, yeah, I'm going to sit back and like eat popcorn and watch it. It has to do about looking at it from a certain lens and then doing some inner work around it. Because if you watch it, like fully watch it in this way, you can actually heal your self-love code, because it's like you're able to see how these energies play out in actual, like real, in real life. So let's talk about like the latest season. There was, and this is not about calling anybody out, because we have all been here. Every single one of us has done this on some level. Okay. So this is why we're going to talk about it. So in the last season, there was a woman named Chelsea, and she had trauma from previous relationships. Okay. I think like her last relationship, he cheated. There might've been some abuse or something that had happened. I don't know the extent of it or the level of it, but ultimately, like, she was still very wounded from that relationship. And so then she was entering into this other relationship, and she needed assurance from him. She needed to be assured. She needed to feel safe in the relationship, right? And so she wanted him to like verbally tell her that he loves her, that he wants to be with her. She would ask him like a couple times a day to tell her. She would want to know, like, well, why are you with me? Why do you like me? What are the things you like about me? Right. And she would say it like that. And again, I'm sure we all can relate to this. And then she would be like, but like, do you love me? You said it, but I don't know that I believe you. And then maybe he wouldn't say it in the morning. And she would be like, you didn't even tell me today. Right. And then it would end up with her crying and being like, I can't help how I feel. I just have all, this is what I'm feeling right now. And I feel like you are not validating me. Right. And she would get into like that. So like, if we really analyze that, like what's really happening? First of all, she's saying, I need. She's in wounded feminine. And then she goes into this, well, I'm not getting what I want from you. I'm not getting it in the way that I want. So I'm going to try to even like basically coerce you, manipulate you to give me what I want by crying. Because let's be honest, she is not being responsible for her emotions. She even if she's doing therapy, whatever, because I don't know the situation. She might be right, but ultimately she has still not healed from her past relationships. More than that, she is operating in the world in anxiety, and then she's basically saying, person, because I don't feel safe in the relationship, it's up to you to make me feel safe. But what is she really wanting? Underneath the safe in relationships, what is she really wanting? She wants to feel safe in her body. And she's not giving herself that. She's not finding her own safety. So she's showing up in the world and saying, it's like, I need it from you. And then I'm not getting it from you. So now it's your fault that I'm feeling the way I'm feeling. Ladies, this is our responsibility to heal this in ourselves, to show up in a different way, right? So like that's really what this is all about. So, all right, going on to healthy feminine. I just wanted to show you real quick. So like healthy feminine, emotional balance, okay? Right? It comes back to like we can have the full gamut of emotions, but we need to be able to have stability, internal balance, right? Soft focus, again, being that visionary, you have to be able to step back and be able to see the big vision. This is what is possible when you're in your healthy feminine. Confidence and clarity. You know what I think about when I think about this? I think about the seers, the oracles, right? Of like the guides that were as part of leaders. They were like the confidants, the advisors to the leaders, right? It was women that were in their healthy feminine. Fluid movement. We know about that. We know about like the feminine flow and all of that. And yes, when you were in your healthy feminine, you were able to transition and go from one thing to the other without having like harsh stops and without, feeling like you are like jagged and kind of going from one thing to another in in that way. Charting the course, the way I think about this is almost like I think of a big ship, and then I think of like charting. You're looking at the stars, and then you're like, okay, this is your charting the course of like where the ship is gonna go, and then you hand it to the captain. But like this is when you're in your healthy feminine, this is what's possible. This is where the energy really it's like where it really flows, right? And then in your healthy masculine, so this is where you have your physical stability to take the action. So you're emotionally balanced, and then you have that physical stability as well. And then you have expansive creation. So you have the big vision, but then you can actually create in expansive energy. So that's why you still need rest though, because you're using expansive energy to make change in the world. Then we have consistent and committed. So that's really just talking about like when you're in your healthy masculine, you are committed to that, right? We talked about childbirth and like committing to that. That's exactly what it's like. You commit to moving forward. You commit to taking that consistent action. You are the support system. When you're in your healthy masculine, it means like you have your pillars and you have that like the solid foundation upon which you can be flexible. We always still need not a rigid structure, but we need some sort of structure. And that's our healthy masculine. And we're even going to talk about like how this plays into partnerships too. And then I always just think of it as like steering the ship, right? So you have charting the course and then you have steering the ship. All right. So let's go on to actually rebalancing, how to rebalance and embody the divine feminine here. All right. So rebalancing. All right. This is where we're talking about slowing down. Okay. So this was really hard for me. This was probably the hardest thing, but this is the first step. This is necessary. You have to be willing to slow down. All right. So, the way that you really do that is you have to find safety in going slow. And a big part of that is also, I'm even going to go ahead and go on to the next one, because you have to also allow in support, because it's totally related to this. Oh my gosh, I don't even know why. Like the chat, I don't even know why in my chat. What is soft focus? Okay, yeah. So again, soft focus is like, that was when I said it's basically, okay, when you have blinders on and you are just like it, you are going for this one thing. Remember how I said clutching is the wounded masculine, and it's like hanging on to this thing, and it has to look exactly this way, right? Clutching is like you cannot see anything else except for this one thing that is right in front of you. Yeah. So soft focus is where you're sitting back and you're like, okay, so maybe this thing that I'm trying to get, maybe this isn't actually for me, right? Maybe there's something else that can come in. Maybe there's something else that's going to be available for me. And even like looking at the big picture, if you are really a visionary, do you think that you're going to be like hyper focused? No, you're going to be able to like step back and say, okay, let me look at like what is truly possible here. What are all of the ways in which I can do this? I can approach this. So it's really about just allowing yourself to consider, to let other things in. Actually, which is funny that I just found, I just saw the comment now, because it's like, it's about even like allowing in support. Okay. And let's talk about this. Allowing in support. I did not allow, when I was really in my wounded masculine, and I was go, 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 and I was all about being productive and hustling through it and all of that, I did not allow support. Like my husband wanted to support me, and I was just blinded, and I was like, no, no, we're going to do this thing, and I'm just going to go straight for it. And I don't even know. Like it wasn't, I didn't even know that he was offering support, right? I just like, I was so focused that it was, yeah, like it was there, and I didn't even realize it was there. And so part of this slowing down is really about helping us hit that reset button, slowing down to the point where, I'm going to be honest with you, you have to kind of have like a little bit of like like I think of like a computer malfunctioning almost. And it's like reprogramming our the entire limiting beliefs that we have around time, around worthiness, around productivity, about like why we're here in the earth, in the world, in the earth, on the earth, and in this life. Because so much is tied, and this goes also into like even I'm just going to go ahead and pull a couple of these up, right? So this even goes into like a calm mindset. When we have beliefs that are built on, in order for me to be worthy, I have to produce, I have to create, even though that is part of why we're here. When we have thoughts that are like, I have to do this, it creates pressure and anxiety. Those thoughts themselves create them. And then what happens is that when we aren't doing something, then we don't feel worthy. We're like, well, I can't sit still in my body, in my feminine body. I can't sit still. I have to do something. And so then it goes into this, like, I have to produce, I have to create results, and I have to like live. And then that's the anxiety. And then, so it's like, all of that is coming into play. That's why I say like, it's a process. Okay. It is definitely a process to hit that reset button. And I'm just being completely honest. Like, so for me, when I slowed down, that was like 5 or 6 years ago. What I did is I actually dropped out of a full-time job and I went into a part-time job. And I actually stepped back from trying to be the main income earner. I allowed my husband to be that. I was like, you know what? That's okay. He'll be that. And then I am going to basically take this for myself and try to reprogram this, right? And so that was the first step. And it was, it was so scary. It was so scary. It was so hard. but it was what was necessary. And I healed all of my thoughts about time, about there not being enough time, about feeling like I was running out, about feeling like I was gaining an age and I was just getting older and I wasn't going to get what I wanted in this life, and fear of death, and all of that came to the surface and healed. Okay. And like being productive and all of that and all of that, right? Last year, though, is when I actually hit a full reset, completely healed my nervous system from anxiety. Um, and that took like about, and usually with clients, I've done it with several clients, and it's like it ranges anywhere from like 3 months to 6 months, just depending on a lot of different factors. Okay. For me, it just took longer, just like some other things. And I also didn't have like the fastest way at that time. I didn't have the fastest way, but like now I've like figured it out. Um, but yes, it can be scary. And so I highly suggest, if you're thinking about doing that, make sure that you have a really strong support system. Please, you can reach out to me. I definitely have support with this. I can walk you through it. I can guide you through it. But whatever you choose, like just make sure that you are fully supported on that journey, because it is hard to do it on your own. I did it on my own and I was like, this is really difficult. Okay. And allowing support in. So you have, most of us, if you do have a partner, it's about really allowing yourself to open up to them wanting to support you. Okay. Because they do. And again, even if you feel like they don't say anything, most of the time they do. Now, could they maybe have turned that off because you were showing up in an energy of like, I don't need help, I'm going to do it all. Right? Could that have happened? I've had clients where that is the case. And so their husband just stopped doing it. Why? Not because they didn't care or they don't want to, but literally because they were like, oh, well, she doesn't want to be supported in that way. She doesn't need that. Right? Again, this is why we have to take ownership. We can't just say, I don't get it from people. I don't get what I need. We have to be like, okay, well, how is this like something that I created? And it's great though to take ownership, because then you can actually, like, you can do something about it, right? You can then show up in a different way. You can ask for what you want. And then that also helps to heal the relationship if it's meant to be healed, right? Like I get it, not all are, but so often, more often than not, we have the support and we just don't let it in. Okay. Leaning into our cycles as women, of course, listening to when we need to rest. So often we don't do that. We don't listen to it. We don't listen to when we feel the anxiety, right? We have to stop thinking it's normal. Stop thinking that exhaustion and burnout are normal. We're like, oh, it's just, that's being a mom. No, no, mama. No, it's not. Right. And then even like, like we were talking about with Ira, right? Like going with the moon, going with nature, with the seasons, right? Everything has a cycle. It has a pattern. It has a rhythm, and we do too. And we need to really honor that, right? And we talked about like shifting into a calm mindset. This is up to us to choose to think differently, to really take a look at the images that we have. What is that box? What does that look like? And we have to be willing to rewrite it for ourselves, right? Change up what that box looks like, because it has distorted images of even what feminine and masculine are. Distorted images that create an imbalance. And then we can see that when we're trying to achieve a goal or manifest something, right? So like, let's go ahead, let's talk about tools to embody. So we already talked about like partner support and leaning into cycles and rhythms, right? So something else that's key is I keep moving this in the wrong way. Yes. So easy. It's definitely not so easy. It's so worth it. Exactly. Thanks, Ire. Yeah, because and I'm telling you, right? It gets me fired up, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like these are the conversations that we need to be having. Yeah. Okay, so like resetting the environment. So this perfect example. This event is a way to reset your environment. It's a way to put yourself into a different environment where you are surrounded by things that will support you on your journey, right? This also about healing that sisterhood wound. Same thing. The women here, linking up with any of the women here helps to heal parts of you. It helps to heal and help you find safety being feminine, being in your feminine body, right? Stop like trying to hustle and strive and produce and feel safe. this is all what it's about, right? So it's all of these things. And spending time alone, out of all of it, this is my number one thing. And I know like Ira's a reflector, right? So she's like definitely out there spending time alone, spending time in nature, right? Things like that. Super crucial. But like out of all of it, that's the number one thing that allowed me to actually do this, right? I had to spend time alone. I'm a projector, so that's like a must for me. And then, of course, all of the women here in this event talking about reconnecting with the body, regulating the nervous system, right? So crucial. So please take heed with all of the information that is here. It is absolutely a part of this process. We are all intertwined with what we're talking about. We're just talking about it from different perspectives, right? Using somatic work, I like to use this with clients as well, but if you're not familiar with it, it's basically using breath work, using sound, like using your voice, basically, not even speaking words, but speaking more like using more just actual sounds like humming or even like sometimes screaming or yelling or like really like, like sometimes it makes sounds like that, right? Like it can be weird and it can feel very out of the comfort zone, but it is so therapeutic. Movement and dance, allowing your body to move you. Even if you have anxiety, right? Like when I really started to heal that, I would just let the anxiety move my body so that it would move out of my body. And then the last two, I do a lot of identity work. This is where, again, it goes back to kind of like the boxes, right? So we have this image of like what the mom is, what the wife is, what the career woman is, what the woman, like, you know, all of the things. We have these different boxes. And so when we try to fit into the box, we bump up against that idea because we never can really fit there. That's not us, right? It's some other cartoon image almost, right? Of that fake Hollywood of like, this is what it should look. And so when we don't fit it, because we don't, we feel the discord, we feel the dissonance between the vision and us, right? Reality. And so what we need to do is actually revamp it and we need to rewrite it so that we create something that we want. First of all, like I want this image, I want to be this person, and you can actually achieve it. All right. And then nervous system upgrades. So the way I see this is actually about growing your nervous system. So it means like expanding into new levels of safety. Okay. This is really, really important. When you think about it, when we regulate our nervous system, which is still part of the whole puzzle, right? When we regulate though, we're trying to first find safety. Okay. But regulating brings you out of trauma response, right? It brings you back into the body. We have to be back into the body. All right. But it's more than life. Life is more than just regulating. Okay. We need to also know how to expand our capacity. Otherwise, we would just continue to stay the same. All right. So you have to have tools. You have and all of these things are tools. You can use all of these to compile and to help you do these things. All right. But I'm just saying you have to also go to expand. And I also feel like this isn't talked about very often. Okay. So it's a key part of this inner work. All right. So like this is the work that all of us need to do. Every single one of us. Okay. It's the work I do with my clients. It's the work that all these women here do. So, and this is really what I do with my clients about elevating mindset, upgrading nervous system so that women can really grow and feel safe and confident going after their goals. So when each one of us rebalances our own energies and shows up in the world differently, we affect others, right? It ripples out. People, they see how we're different. Then what? They feel different when they engage with us, right? We show up in peace. We show up in calm. All of a sudden, they're like, oh, well, first of all, what's up with her? How did she get that? Right. And then they're like, I wonder how I could do that, and then it starts that change. It changes how they show up. It expands their minds, right? It creates that ripple. And then not to mention for our kids, for those of us who are moms, right? It's and not just about the money. It's not just about the money that we want to leave them, but like, what do we want to heal? What do you want to heal so that your kids are no longer having to deal with that baggage? Right? Like, what can they witness in you that will transform their lives? This is why we do the work. This is how, and show up to do the work in our lives. So I encourage you, reach out to me, reach out to any of these women. We are all badasses. We are all here to help you figure out the best path to get you started on this. All right. So Finally, right? Y'all be like, oh my gosh, like she's done. Go outside and dance and vocalize. I love it. Yes, exactly. Somatic work. Okay. So I'm gonna stop sharing. I'm gonna stop sharing this. It is so good. That was like, that was a lot. Like I said, said at the beginning, this is gonna be a lot. It's gonna be a lot that I'm gonna give you. But that's why you have replay, right? Like take what works, take what doesn't work, watch it. Like this is just something to hopefully expand some minds, some hearts, and just consider. That's it.
Yes, thank you, thank you, thank you. I know that hit a few things that I have needed apparently been needing to work on. So I appreciate you so much, Soraya. That was awesome and amazing, and I am very, very grateful that you were here today. For everybody listening in the audience, we are going to go and head over to the breakout sessions, which I dropped in the chat earlier, but in case you missed it, I'm going to drop it again so y'all can go and join us up there. Sarai's going to be there so y'all can continue the conversation with her and ask her all those questions and whatever else you want to get done. And Ashley's going to be there from last night, Melanie from this morning, Jennifer's going to be there. I will be there, but I am not talking to anyone unless you just really want to hit me up. I'm going to be administering the rooms, making sure everybody's where they need to go. So we will see you all in a little bit. Thank you again, Sarai, Melanie, and Jennifer for being here
Thank
today, and for those who
you.
came. Yes, so we will see you tomorrow, guys, 10 a.m. Mountain Time, which is 9 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Central, 12 p.m. Eastern, starting tomorrow for the same time again. We will have Tess Fairbridge coming. She is going to talk about owning our voice and using our voice as women to not only heal our bodies, but heal so much more. She is absolutely wonderful and amazing. You do not want to miss hers. And we will also be having, who's the other person I'm missing? My mind just went blank on who else is coming
Jamie.
tomorrow. Jamie,
Jamie.
yes. Oh my gosh, I should not forget that. Jamie's amazing too, y'all. She is our clinical herbalist. She is going to come and talk herbs and nutrition and all of that good stuff for healing our bodies from burnout and stress, which I don't know about you, but I needed back when I was working as a nurse. I needed something to help with all that stress. So she is one that you don't want to miss either. So they will be here tomorrow. We will be talking about all that amazing stuff. So come join us tomorrow, 10 a.m. Mountain, 12 p.m. Eastern. We will see you guys then. Until then, bye.